Hey, what is up, YouTube? It's the Dual Threat Podcast here, your daily news source for all things sports. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to hit that like and sub button. This is our second episode of Friday Night Lines. We talk about our lines, which bets we think is the best for the upcoming weekend for college football. Just to recap, so far this season, we are at a 60% win percentage. So above that 50% mark, you're gonna make money with us. And we all each have an upset. That's kind of our thing here. We've got the lines, and then we each pick an upset for the week. Um, Jake and I both picked Texas, and that hit. Jacobs did not. Rutgers did not come through.
Yeah, I got to be honest. After their first game, I was high on Rutgers. Got to be. There's nothing else to say. I didn't watch a whole lot of that game, and seeing how absolutely dominant their defense was, I thought it would translate a little bit. And it even turned out that Michigan State might be a little bit better than we thought, so that Rutgers win even looks better. But yeah, it was 6-7 early. They had a lead, but their offense just could not get a single thing going. Their defense, like I said, it was 6-7. They were up, held them low early, but then Indiana just kind of showed that they were actually pretty decent, and Rutgers offense just stalled pretty much the entire game. So yeah, I'm 0-1. That was tough. I kind of tried to be a little bold, and it didn't work out for me.
Well, we picked Texas. That was kind of a more secured upset sort of thing. I mean, it was a pretty big upset, non-ranked versus number 6, but Jake and I just really saw something coming in that Texas team, even though they stats-wise they really did not do very well against Oklahoma State. I mean, Oklahoma State just really put it on them when it came to stats, but all those turnovers really lost them the game.
Yeah, so last week, our lines that hit were the SMU line, the Ohio State line, and the TCU line. That's where we got our 3 wins from. Auburn and K-State didn't do as hot as we thought they would. Yeah, we ended up going 3-2 last week, as we talked about earlier. And yeah, I mean, that Texas pick last week. How about that, Drew?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like we knew that was gonna happen. I mean, it was kind of more of a hopeful thing because we didn't really want to see a Big 12 team in the playoffs, at least for me. And I really think Big 12 has just beat each other up to the point where none of them are going to go to the playoffs anymore. But yeah, I mean, our picks either hit or they're not even close to hitting. And I mean, you look at Kansas State, you look at Auburn, and you got to give a lot of credit to Bo Nix. He really showed up last week against LSU. We talked a lot of garbage about him, especially me. And so, Bo Nix, if you're watching this, if you're one of our 2 viewers, thank you. But you really showed up, and props to you. I'm sorry for talking trash. I hope you can continue to do this for the rest of the season.
All right, but enough about last week. Let's get into the lines for this week. Our first line, if you watched the college football preview for this weekend, Drew went on a little bit of a rant about the Clemson Notre Dame game, and that's where our first line is. Clemson -5 is the popular line that we're seeing, and we're taking Clemson. Like Drew, a lot of Drew's points, Ian Book has been bad. His running backs have been as good as him, and their defense is better than any defense Clemson's seen, but we think, I mean, just looking at how DJ Ungamalele played last week, he lit it up, and we're expecting more of the same. We're expecting their defense to correct a lot of things that they had issues with in the first half against Boston College and come out and show up like the number 1 team in the country against Notre Dame, even though Trevor Lawrence isn't playing, even though they're missing, that center point of their offense, and just a lot of motivation and a lot of vibes on their defense that he brings when the offense is humming. But even then, we think that Clemson's going to come out with this one -5.
I think just going back off of that point, DJ really played well last week. I mean, he threw for 350 yards, and that's when he only had 2 days of preparation. And he did look like he could have probably started on 90% of college football teams if he wanted to right now. So, so our next line, we're going to go over to Florida versus Georgia. I also talked about this in our preview this weekend. I'm I'm assuming that Florida wins this game. I mean, we talked about how Georgia's safety is out, and that really hurts Georgia's defense because their passing defense is really, really good. And you look at the other side of the ball, you look at Kyle Trask, and he has been phenomenal, especially with Kyle Pitts. He's really been tearing up the season. He's one of my Heisman. He's one of my Heisman picks of the year. I think he still maybe has a chance. I think a lot of people are sleeping on him just because he's had to sit out for 2 weeks due to COVID. But I mean, he still comes back and dominates against Missouri. And I think he ends up dominating again this weekend, even against a really good Georgia defense. And so, yeah, we're going to take Florida plus 3.5 because we assume even if Florida doesn't win this game, it's going to be a really close game. And I think if Georgia wins, they only win by a field goal.
Yeah, so the next line that we're going to take the over in the Kansas State-Oklahoma State game. We're taking the over at 46. Kansas State only put up 10 points last week. They gave up 37 to West Virginia. We think that they're going to give up a lot more to Oklahoma State. Chuba Hubbard, Spencer Sanders, and Tylan Wallace are the keys for Oklahoma State in this game. We think that they're going to run all over Kansas State. We think that they're going to be able to pass all over Kansas State. I mean, we feel like 46 is way too low in a Big 12 game. And so we are going to be taking the over in the Kansas State-Oklahoma State game.
Yeah, and we're really going to stay in that over-under category for the rest of this video. The next one we're going to take is the over at 61.5 for BYU and Boise State. I mean, you look at each of these teams, they're both averaging 40 points a game. And, I mean, at 61.5, that's kind of a steal. Yes, BYU's defense has only allowed, I think it's like 14 or 15 points per game. But you look at the games they've played and the offenses they played, it's kind of a number that just shows kind of low just because they haven't really played anybody. And Boise State's offense has been really efficient. So we expect them to go over to that 61.5 mark on the blue turf.
Yeah, and then we're going to stick with the over again. It's 54 in the West Virginia UT game. Texas has one of the most high-powered offenses, or the most high-scoring offenses in college football. I'm not really sure it's a high-powered offense. And West Virginia put up 37 last week against Kansas State. Kansas State is supposed to have a decent defense for the Big 12. Texas obviously has a horrible defense. We think West Virginia is going to put up at least 30, and we also expect Texas to win the game, which means they're going to have to put up at least 30. That's 60. That's over 54. We feel like this is a pretty good bet.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the whole upsets. We're each going to go over who we think is going to upset this weekend. And Jacob, you want to start us off there?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what they say, life's too short to take the under, and that was a big theme for us this week. So my upset game that I'm going to go with is actually not an upset if you look at the ESPN FPI Football Power Index. But it's the Tennessee-Arkansas game based on Vegas betting lines that Tennessee is favored by 1.5 points, which if you had asked me through 2 weeks in the season, I would have said Tennessee is going to win by 80. But looking at – maybe not 80, but looking at their recent games, Tennessee just has not been great. It feels like ever since that Georgia game, it's just been a down slope. And Drew and I touched on this a little bit before Tennessee's bye week this past week. But we think that, or not we think, but it was pretty unfortunate that we thought that Tennessee just ran into Georgia, Kentucky, who looks to have a decent defense, and Alabama in 3 straight weeks. But it is troubling that the highest amount of points they put up was 21. But going to the side and talking about less bad things about Tennessee, but more good things about Arkansas, they've played a lot of close games. They got kind of smacked by Georgia to start the season, and then came out and beat Mississippi State, who looked great against LSU the week before. Lost to Auburn by 2 on that controversial call. We all think they should have won, and came out, beat Ole Miss, and then last week at Texas A&M. Score shows it a little closer than the game actually felt, but Texas A&M, like we've talked about, is we think is the second best SEC team, and their defense has been really good. So no surprise that they weren't able to do a lot there. Felipe Franks has been great this season with throwing 11 touchdowns with only 3 picks. Their defense has been one of the best in creating turnovers in all of college football. And I think this is a big week for the Razorbacks at home against, just three losses in a row Tennessee team. I think Arkansas takes this one.
All right, and going back to what I said earlier in this video, I'm picking an upset that's kind of a big game. I mean, whoever wins this game really is going to go to the SEC championship to play against most likely who's going to be Arkansas. But I got to take my boys, the Gators. I mean, I really think they end up winning this game. You know how it is. We got that Tim Tebow jersey. He deserved more in the NFL. That's another conversation, though. But, I really think Kyle Trask is going to run this offense against this Georgia defense. I think Georgia's defense is still one of the best in the country, but I also think Florida's offense is one of the best in the country. It's been really, really fun watching this offense. It's kind of looked like a Big 12 team. It kind of looks like Oklahoma or something like that, where it's really all offense and barely any defense. But you look at the other side of the ball with Georgia, their offense is really struggling. I mean, their quarterback, as much as I love his story, as much as a nice guy he seems like, he doesn't really seem like a kind of quarterback that can lead an SEC team to an SEC championship or to even the playoffs. And so I'm going to take Florida in this one.
Yeah, and then finally, my upset for the week, it's going to be on the blue turf. It's going to be Friday night, and it's Boise State over BYU. This is an 8:45 kick. BYU is currently favored by 3.5. I think Boise State is not only going to cover that, but I think that they are going to win the game. Zach Wilson has been very good so far this season against very bad defenses: Western Kentucky, Texas State, Houston, UTSA, La Tech. I don't see him dismantling Boise State the way that he has all these other teams this year. Boise State has only played 2 games against Air Force and Utah State, and they took care of business. They put up 49 and 42, respectively. And I'm expecting Boise State to put up another 38 to 40 point game, and I think that they're going to be able to hold BYU to less than that. So I'm going to be going with Boise State this weekend.
All right. Well, we'll see how these picks go throughout the weekend. Make sure you're subbed. Make sure you hit that like button. Check us out on Twitter at Dual Threat. We'll go ahead and talk about these kind of games throughout the night. We'll also say which games were locked, which games weren't throughout the weekend as they go along. Make sure to go check out our Spotify if you don't have enough time to listen or watch us on YouTube. Go listen to us there. Just throw on some headphones. Go for a run or whatever. Also, check out our TikTok as well at The Dual Threat, or just The Dual Threat, I believe, or just Dual Threat. And yeah, thank y'all for showing up.